3 very scary horror stories. 1. Dark Records. Dark Records. Chase was a former radio host. Years ago, late-night horror programs were popular, but their appeal had faded. However, his passion remained strong. He decided to collect real-life horror stories from people and launch a new podcast series, Dark Records. The first few episodes gained significant attention. People constantly messaged him to share their experiences. But one night, a mysterious audio recording changed everything. Find me. A whispering voice was at the beginning of the recording. It was faint, but unmistakably clear. Then a deep and unsettling breath followed. Jace listened carefully. He opened the file to inspect it, but there was no center. It was as if it had appeared in his inbox by itself. His curiosity got the better of him. He listened to the recording multiple times, but all he could hear were muffled whispers and strange clicking sounds. In the background, there was something else, something like a distant moan. Finally, he filtered the frequencies to make it clearer and was able to decipher part of the hidden sentence. Chase, find me, ... my time is running out. Hearing his own name made cold sweat run down his back. This couldn't be a prank. To uncover more, he reversed the recording and played it backward. When you arrive, I will be waiting ... The next day, he decided to investigate, checking the apartment's security footage from the time the recording was received. He hoped to find some clues, but what he saw made his blood run cold. In the footage, a man stood at the entrance of the building, staring blankly at the elevator. His face was blurred, as if the camera couldn't focus on him. He remained still for a few seconds before slowly tilting his head upward, not toward the camera, but toward Jace's apartment. He abruptly shut down the footage and turned on all the lights in his room. A strange sense of unease settled over him. When he looked back at his computer, the audio file on his screen had changed. A new message had appeared. Look at your window. Summoning every ounce of courage, he turned toward the window. His heart nearly stopped. He was on the 4th floor, but just outside, hovering in midair, was a faceless figure. The figure slowly tilted its head, peering inside, and then another whisper. You found me ... Now it's my turn. Chase froze and placed his heart pounding. The figure vanished in an instant, but he could feel something had changed in the room. He looked at his computer screen and saw that his microphone was now active. A new recording had been made. Now it's your turn to listen. His hands trembled as he pressed play. At first, there was only static, then the sound of a door creaking open. A deep breath, followed by footsteps coming from inside his own room. Jace spun around, but there was nothing there. A suffocating darkness filled the space. And then, in the reflection of his computer screen, he saw it standing right behind him. The figure moved suddenly, the screen went black, and Jace was never seen again. 2. The Curse of High School.
The Curse of High School.
Bedroom night. The room is dimly lit. Jessica sits on her bed, staring at her open laptop. On the screen, a website titled Summoning Rituals is displayed. Jessica, could this really work? A notification sound comes from her phone. A message from her best friend, Emily, appears on the screen. Emily, the plan is set. we're meeting at school tonight. Don't tell anyone. Jessica hesitates for a moment, but then smiles and types back. Jessica, all right, what time? Emily, midnight. We'll enter through the back door. Jake will unlock it. Be ready. Jessica takes a deep breath, closes her laptop and lies down. A strange feeling of unease washes over her. High school back door midnight. The camera shows the dimly lit back entrance of the school, illuminated by a flickering street light. Jessica, Emily, Jake, and Mark stand in the shadows. Jake is working on the lock with a pair of pliers. Jake, almost. Got it. We're in. Jake slowly pushes the door open. They quietly step inside. The hallway is silent, except for the occasional soft creak of the floor. Mark, which room are we using? Emily, the biology lab that has the biggest table. Jessica looks around nervously, feeling as if someone is watching them. Biology lab, night. A single candle flickers on the table. A wooden Ouija board sits at the center. Jessica, are we sure about this? What if we actually summon something? Jake, isn't that the point? They all place their fingers on the planchette. Emily, if anyone is here, make your presence known. A few seconds pass. Nothing happens. Then, slowly, the planchette begins to move. Jessica, who's messing with it? Mark, I swear it's not me. Suddenly, a loud crash. One of the windows shatters. They all scream and jump back. Emily, no way. The doors slam shut on their own. The lights flicker wildly. Panicking, they try to escape, but the door won't budge. Jessica, please, let us go. The planchette moves on its own, spelling out a message. You are not free. Jessica gasps, her eyes wide in horror. Her friends start to cry in fear. A dark shadow emerges from the corner of the room, its eyes glowing a deep, menacing red. Shadowy entity, deep, echoing voice. I never gave you permission to leave. The shadow rushes toward Jake. He screams as it engulfs him, pulling him into darkness. Jessica, Jake, no. The others desperately struggle with the door. Finally, it bursts open, and they flee into the night. Jake's screams echo behind them. 3 days later, Emily's house. Jessica and Emily sit in Mark's living room, staring at the floor. They look exhausted and pale. Mark, we couldn't save him. Emily, but we can't just leave him. There has to be a way. Jessica flips through a book, scanning the pages until she finds a name. Spirit Hunter, Adrian Blackwood. Jessica, this guy, maybe he can help us. Adrian Blackwood's shop, evening. The shop is filled with old artifacts, strange symbols, and mystical trinkets. Adrian, an older man with piercing eyes, watches them carefully. Adrian, you kids have made a terrible mistake, but there's still a chance. Mark, can we get Jake back? Adrian, only if we perform the ritual correctly. But there will be a price to pay. Return to the school night. They return to the biology lab. Adrian draws a protective circle on the floor with a strange powder. Adrian, if Jake's soul is still here, I will summon him. But beware, other entities may come as well. Adrian begins chanting in an ancient language. Suddenly, a dark figure materializes in the center of the room, Jake. But behind him, another shadow lurks. Jessica. Jake. We're here. Jake's body trembles, his eyes glowing bright red. Adrian pulls a small vial from his pocket and hurls it at the shadow. The bottle shatters and the shadow lets out a bone-chilling scream before disappearing. Jake collapses onto the ground, gasping for air. His friends rush to his side. "Jake, what happened?" A car, teary-eyed. "We got you back, man." Outside the school, Jessica and her friends step out into the cool, early morning air. The sun is beginning to rise. Adrian gives them one last look. "Adrian, don't mess with the darkness again." Jessica glances up at the sky, breathing deeply. "Jessica, never again." The screen fades to black. The last image is the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. 3. Curse of the Night Forest. Curse of the Night Forest. The cold wind howled through the trees as 4 friends, Mark, Emily, Jake, and Ashley, arrived at the forest for their long-planned camping trip. Wanting to escape the chaos of city life, they decided to spend a few days in nature. They lit a campfire, set up their tents, and began chatting happily. However, there was something none of them knew. This forest had long been rumored to be cursed. According to legend, years ago, a shaman who lived there had been accused of witchcraft and burned alive by the villagers. Before dying, he swore revenge, claiming his spirit would curse the forest. Because of this, the locals avoided the area, but the city-dwelling friends didn't believe in such tales and dismissed them without a second thought. The first night seemed normal, but around midnight, strange things began to happen. First, Mark heard whispers coming from deep within the forest. Squinting into the darkness, he saw nothing and brushed it off as fatigue. He didn't mention it to his friends and went to his tent. As the night went on, the eerie occurrences intensified. Emily saw the branches of a nearby tree shaking violently, despite the absence of wind. Jake noticed the campfire inexplicably dying out and then reigniting. But the most terrifying experience was Ashley's. She heard someone calling her name in a deep, raspy voice from outside her tent. Summoning her courage, she peeked outside but saw no one. The next morning, they shared their unsettling experiences and agreed that something was off about the campsite. However, they decided it was too late to turn back and chose to stay one more night. That evening, they remained more cautious, but the horrors continued. Jake wandered deeper into the forest after spotting a mysterious light. Ignoring his instincts, he followed it. As he got closer, he discovered an old, faded charm lying on the ground. Just as he reached for it, a chilling whisper filled the air. "You shouldn't be here." Terrified, he turned to run, but his legs felt impossibly heavy, as if an unseen force was pulling him back. His friends heard his screams and rushed to help. When they found him unconscious, his skin bore strange burn marks that looked self-inflicted. Panic took hold of the group. Then a shadowy figure emerged, a tall, gaunt silhouette. Its hollow black eyes stared at them in silence. None of them could move. Suddenly, an ear-piercing scream echoed through the forest, and the figure vanished. They decided to abandon the campsite and leave immediately. But no matter how long they walked, the exit never seemed to come. It was as if they were trapped in an endless loop. Time became meaningless. Finally, Emily pulled out the charm Jake had found and dropped it on the ground. A ghostly scream echoed through the trees, and a thick fog surrounded them. When it lifted, they found themselves at the forest's edge. As they sped away in their car, Ashley caught a glimpse of something in the rearview mirror, those hollow black eyes watching them from the shadows. They might have escaped the curse for now, but the entity knew them now, and one day it might return